Guys, today we're talking about a subject that is going to radically change your life. This very subject goes against everything you've been taught as a man, and yet it is one of the most powerful tools that helped me go from being an impoverished, struggling man to an absolutely financial, successful, money-making machine as a financial advisor. The concept we're going to talk about today is called radical generosity. And I want to introduce it to you from a perspective that I think will resonate with all of you. Did you grow up in a family where your parents told you to be careful, to hide, to save, to conceal, and to not show all of your assets? Did you grow up in a family where your parents told you that if you give things to people easily, that if you gift things away too quickly, that you might run out of money and struggle forever? Did you grow up in a family where your parents told you that if you shine your light too bright, someone's going to take advantage of you and you might get in trouble? I know I did. And all of these are different patterns within poverty mindset households. You see, in a poverty mindset household, you're constantly focused on how to conserve and how to save resources. No wonder you never get ahead. In the spiritual world, we call this scarcity mindset, but it happens to all people in all poverty families where they're constantly told to be careful to not overextend themselves because they're going to get hurt. Nothing is further from the truth than this. And today, we're working with this concept of radical generosity, which goes against almost everything we've been taught as impoverished people. You see, radical generosity is a concept of giving beyond what you think you have. And it goes into the field of faith and courage, especially for men. The word generosity itself has meaning. Let's look at that. Generosity, what does that even come from? You see, when we are in the field of generating, we're able to be generous. And when we are generous, we recognize that we are gifts, that we are able to bring a lot of resource into our lives, into our homes, into our businesses by literally owning our energy of being a generator. When you are generous, you are owning your generator capability. This is also where the word generation or generational wealth comes from. When you are able to generate, you're able to give it all away. You're able to give it to the next and next and next kin, the next generation. So where in your life have you forgotten as a man that you are a generator? Because when you remember how powerful you are as a generator, it's so easy to be generous. You give it all away knowing that you can always create more and more and more. Isn't that your true nature? Aren't you really a creator, a powerful man who has always generated? You wouldn't have gotten this far in your life if you were not a generator. And being generous means that you are activating the generator within you. So when we are generous, what we are telling ourselves is, I can give away 10 times more, and I know I can make 10 times more than that. In fact, when we are not in a spirit of generosity, what we are doing is we are hoarding. And that is signaling to our mind, our body, and our nervous system that we are in danger. There is nothing more powerful than giving and sharing beyond what you think you have. In fact, that is exactly what reminds you that you have more. You're able to create more. So many men I meet are so comfortable and complacent in where they are in their lives, in their careers, in their relationships, yet I hear them complain. I hear men complaining about they wish they could make more, they wish they could have more, and the number one prescription to that is generate more, be more generous. And I'm not talking about wait till you make money before you give it, wait till you get time before you give it, wait till you get love before you give it. I'm talking about you go first. Where in your life can you go first in the field of generosity? And what we're talking about today is all the different areas of generosity that we may have forgotten about. Think about it. We have different ways of being generous, not only financial by giving money. In fact, giving money is one of the most cheapest, one of the most non-committal ways to be generous. I'll share with you more about that in a second. But there are other ways to be generous with your time. How generous are you with your time? Are you always telling yourself that you're too busy? Are you always telling yourself that you don't have enough time? And guess what, brother? Who you get to be generous with your time, first and foremost, is yourself. How generous are you with your time with yourself? How patient are you when it comes to giving yourself time? And I'm not just talking about taking breaks. I'm talking about giving yourself time to thrive. So many of us as men, we enter the workforce thinking that we're already way behind. And all the way up the mountain of success, we beat and we punish ourselves, telling ourselves that we're late, we're behind, we're not enough. So where in your life can you be more generous, more patient with your time with yourself? Are you able to take a deep breath and say, you know what? I'm actually doing great. I am ahead of schedule. In fact, the only person that creates my schedule is me. Where can I be more generous with my own schedule, with my own demands of myself? And there, in that field of generosity, then you can start to be generous with others. Think about that. A man who has no time to be generous with himself, to be patient with himself, how could he be patient with others? How could he be generous with others? Oftentimes, that generosity may come from a place of resentment or desperation. So the first thing you can do as an assignment is to ask yourself, can I be more patient with myself? Can I be more generous with patience towards myself? And this form of generosity towards yourself allows you to realize how powerful you are, how capable you are, instead of constantly beating yourself. The next form of generosity that you can play in is the generosity with your words. How generous are you with your words? How generous are you with your compliments to yourself, to other people? How generous are you with how you edify yourself and others? How generous are you with your invitations to others? You see, so many guys, they've lost their generosity. And really, it's because their fathers have been so tough on them that the men themselves are stingy with their generosity, with their compliments to themselves and to others. How stingy are you about the words that you give to other people? Do you wait for someone to do something absolutely mind-blowing before you say, wow, you're amazing. You're incredible. I love the way you're showing up. I'm cheering you on. And this oftentimes, this lack of generosity, remember what I said, comes from poverty parents. You know, if your father was a man who did not have a sense of generosity, a man who was in a field of scarcity, a man who was afraid to run out, it's often true that he would be stingy, cheap with his words, not fully complimentary. And when we are complimentary with our words, what we're saying is, hey, I can give away beautiful words and compliments, and there's still more. I'm not going to run out. No one's going to take advantage of me. In fact, I recognize that when I am generous with my words, when I compliment people, I actually thrive because people want to be around someone who is generous. So, can you be more complimentary? When you go to Starbucks and you order that coffee and the woman behind the counter says, hey, listen, that'll be $6.75. Instead of just giving her your credit card, say, wait, before I give you my credit card, I want to give you a generous compliment. Your smile blows me away. I love the way you treat me, and I love the way you allow people to enter this space feeling good about themselves. Thank you. Here's my credit card. Think about what that does for the person receiving it. And more importantly, think about what that does for the people watching you. You see, generosity takes courage. Most of us want to hide. We want to transact in the shadows. But we know that wealth is created in the light, in the power, in the seat of the king. So where in your life can you sit more in the kingdom and be generous with your resources? Not just for your benefit, not just for the benefit of the person receiving, but also for the benefit of all watching. They've done studies on this, and they notice in research studies that when you are generous, it releases really powerful and positive chemicals, one of them being oxytocin. Oxytocin is a very healthy, love-inducing chemical that not only you get to benefit from when you are generous, but the person that's receiving also gets to benefit from when they receive your generosity. So when you participate in generosity, you're creating what I call a generosity loop. You're not only receiving, but you're giving generosity. And studies also show that people who witness generosity, meaning they're not even a part of the exchange, they're just witnessing the exchange happen, even they get a boost in happy chemicals. So you want to change the world? You better start being generous now to yourself, to others, and doing it in a radical way. What does it mean to be radically generous? It means not hiding it. So many people practice generosity, but they do it in like a little secretive way. Here you go. Here's a little bit of pocket change for you. Next time you give somebody something, I want you to practice being full frontal with your generosity. Say to them, hey, listen, I love you and I'm practicing generosity. Here's my generous gift to you. Do something amazing with it, or do something generous with this gift. Let people know that you are being generous so it activates their desire to also be generous. You know, so many people have been hiding in the fear of running out, and it brings them out of the shadows when another person not only gives them generously, but says, hey, this is my act of generosity to you. Now it's your turn. You're activating people. Another form of generosity is being generous with your energy. Being generous with your energy looks like helping someone, helping your friend move, giving your friend a little bit of assistance, or even a stranger, giving them assistance and saying, hey, listen, I'm practicing generosity and I want to take a moment out of my day to help you. Are you open to that? It's called full frontal. And this act of generosity is a game changer. Let me give you some examples. When I grew up, I was told in business, don't give away your time for free. So I used to sequester or restrict my time. Later, as I grew up, I recognized how that was actually a fear technique. I was just afraid of being taken advantage of. So I wasn't willing to share my time with people. And it's not that I was even that busy. I just was afraid to get taken advantage of, and I wouldn't share my time. And of course, I wasn't making that much money. And then I started to learn about radical generosity. And one of the things I started to do was I would share my time, my professional time with people, and I would tell them, hey, listen, I want to be generous with you. And I usually charge a lot of money for this, but I want to give you an hour of my time just as my pure generosity. I'm hoping that this really helps you and it benefits you. And I cannot tell you how that transformed my business. How much people receiving my generosity, it activated their generosity. At some point, as a financial advisor, I was receiving more from my customers than I could give. In fact, I got to a point where customers would call me and they would say, hey, I don't need you giving me any more. I know how generous you are. This is your chance to receive from me. Are you ready? Here's 5 referrals. Thank you. You're awesome. Boom. So In this field of radical generosity, what I want you to know is it's a field of leadership, meaning everyone is so scared to be generous. Everyone is afraid to be generous. So when you go first, what you're doing is you're leading, you're enabling others to remember how they too can be generous. You see, when we lead in any type of a field, whether it's generosity, whether it's at work, whether it's in the boardroom or the bedroom, doesn't matter where, we're putting our asses on the line. We're taking a risk. And we're saying and signaling to the people around us, hey, I'm about to do something that very few people do because it's known to be dangerous, but I believe in myself. And I'm going to go first just to see what happens. And as you take that leap of faith into higher levels of generosity, what you'll start to notice is people will gather around you. People will be inspired by your actions of generosity. Now, this is a little different than being a martyr. Being a martyr is not the same as being generous. Being a martyr is someone who tries to help others with a cup that is half empty in hopes of getting benefits, in hopes of receiving reciprocity, in hopes of being liked. So check yourself. When are you being generous, quote unquote, because you want to be liked? When are you being generous from a space of desperation? Because that truly is not generosity. That's just manipulation. Generosity looks like standing in your power and having a conversation with God and saying, hey, God, I'm about to be generous. I'm about to give my favorite shirt to my friend, knowing that I might never get it back. But this is an act of faith for me. I'm going to do this. It brings me joy and I'm scared. I wonder what will happen next. I did this once. I had a friend come over to my house and we did a beautiful ceremony with music, with joy, with blessings. And I kept hearing this calling in my ear. This shirt that you're wearing, Solay, looks better on Jason than it does on you. I kept hearing it and I was so scared because I loved that shirt. I had purchased it for myself at a festival and I was just always so happy to wear this shirt. But I kept seeing and hearing how this shirt looked so much better on my friend. So in the middle of our ceremony, I stopped him. I said, Jason, I feel really scared right now. And I'm also almost shy to share this with you. But I keep hearing that this shirt that I really love actually looks better on you. I would love to gift it to you. And I feel really scared because it's my favorite shirt in the world. Will you accept this shirt from me as an act of generosity? Jason, his eyes opened. He said, what? I said, this is my favorite shirt. I want to give it to you because I have a belief that you'll enjoy it and it'll look better on you than it does on me. He almost started crying. He took the shirt. Until today, he still wears it when he comes to my house as a form of gratitude. And that's just one small example. So here, I'm asking you to see where you can exercise your generosity muscle. I call this going to the generosity gym. Where can you expand your nervous system? Where can you expand your faith and courage by being 3 times more generous than you are? 4 times more generous than you already are? 5 times more generous than you already are? So this week, what I'd like for you to practice is going to the generosity gym. Experimenting with where you can be more generous and also owning it. Telling the person, hey, I'm going to be generous and I'm going to give this to you. And sometimes if you're scared, letting them know, hey, I'm really scared to be this generous because the household I grew up in, my parents told me that if I'm this generous, I'm going to be in danger, but I'm going to own my power. Here's my generosity to you. This is for you. Thank you. You know what that does? That expands your kingdom as a man. What that does is it tells not just the person, but your consciousness that you have way more resource than you ever imagined. It gets you out of the space of scarcity and limitation and lets you realize how you can give it all away and then you can generate more, even more than you ever had. You see, brother, this is the problem. So many guys are in a place of complacency. They're stuck in their level of success, in their level of finances. And the number one gift that I would give a guy like that is practice radical generosity. Because when you put yourself in a situation where you desire to give something that is very challenging for you, what that does is it continually tells your brain that taking a risk of giving at large levels is actually safe. It's not just safe, it's prosperous. And what starts to happen is you start to receive things beyond your limit. This is the law of reciprocity. The law of reciprocity says that when you generate, when you gift, when you give away, you open space to receive at even higher levels. And most of us incorrectly think that the place in which we give to has to be the same place in which we receive from. It's not true. You give to person A, you receive from person C. This is how the universe works. This is how God works. You get to become a generator of joy, a generator of compliments, a generator of light, a generator of wealth. And as you generate, as you give, as you use your generosity muscles, guess what? You're able to receive and contain way more. More light, more love, more joy, more power, and more wealth. So where in your life can you give more words? Where can you give more time? Where can you give more energy? And finally, where can you give more money? And let me tell you, giving money is one of the most cheapest forms of generosity because technically you can give somebody money and not show up for them. You see so many guys sending their ex-girlfriends or ex-wives money while they actually hate them. They're in resentment. That's not generosity. That's kind of like charity with resentment on top. I don't want you doing that. What I want you to do is next time you give money to someone, I want you to just spend a moment with it and say, hey, I want to give you this money, and this is a challenge for me because this goes beyond my limit of comfort, and yet I am so excited to give it to you. And as I give this to you, this is my generosity. I'm expanding my field of wealth. Please take this money from me, enjoy it as best as you can as your gratitude to me. The more you celebrate with this money, the more I benefit. So here you go. This is my gift to you. Imagine what that does for the person that you just gave it to. And imagine what that does for you, realizing that you can write a big check and still be safe. You can give a big gift and you can still be safe. And what I noticed for my life is the bigger the gifts I gave, the bigger the checks I wrote, the bigger the gifts I was able to command, the bigger the checks I was able to receive. Think about that for a moment. If the biggest check you've ever written to someone is a $10,000 check, how are you going to have the nervous system, the courage to ask someone for a $50,000 check? Most guys I know who can't write a $10,000 check, when it comes to asking a client for a large sum of money, they shake, they crumble, they get scared, they can't do it. So you get to go first. This is the place of courage. You get to write a bigger check than you've ever written. And you get to do it through unadulterated joy. And if you get scared, you get to say, I'm scared and I'm still doing this. There's a beautiful story I tell of a rabbi who comes around once a year to collect charitable contributions from all of the people in the community. There's a man in the community who was a prominent businessman, but in one year, he loses all of his money. This man used to donate large sums of money to the rabbi, but this 1 year, he's lost everything. The rabbi comes to his house. The rabbi says, listen, it's time for you to give your annual donation. The businessman almost falls into tears. He's about to cry. He's feeling shame. He doesn't know how to explain, but he says, Rabbi, you don't know this about me, but last year I lost all my money. And in fact, I just started a brand new business and I'm starting my wealth all over again. I'm sitting here on a plastic chair, on a plastic table. I haven't even had one client yet. Rabbi, please don't ask me for a contribution. Don't ask me for charity this year. Come back next year. The rabbi has a smile on his face. The rabbi knows what he's about to do for this man. He holds the man accountable. He says, Shmuley, I'm going to ask you for this $25,000 check regardless. But what I'll do this year is instead of collecting it all up front, I'll collect it from you in payments. Not knowing what to do, Shmuley gets scared. He's shaking. He doesn't know what to say. He doesn't know how to say no. But he draws upon his faith. He draws upon his courage. He draws upon his generator capability, knowing that nothing can take away the generator that God has given to him. He writes the rabbi the first month's check. He has no idea where he's going to make it from. Next month, rabbi comes by. Rabbi says, all right, time for your second check. How's it been going? Shmuley says, Rabbi, you have no idea. The greatest blessing was the fact that you asked me for that check and you didn't let me go. Because I gave you this contribution, I worked twice as hard, made 3 times as much money. In fact, I'm making more money now than I expected to make before you came by. Over the span of that 1 year, Shmuley makes way more money than he projected. Why? Because the very act of generosity gets you as a man to remember how much of a generator you are. So this month, this week, I want you to go to the generosity gym. Your parents' voice will be in your head the whole time. You'll hear them say, don't do it, be careful, you're going to run out. But that's the very moment where I want you to open your heart, take a deep breath into your nervous system and give. And know that by giving full frontally, not from a place of fear and shame, not from a place of obligation, but from a place of expansion, that you give knowing that with your giving, you're opening up the space to have more. Give more compliments than you ever have. Give more time than you think you have. Give more love. And something I always hear is, you want more love? Give more love. You want more time? Give more time. You want more compliments? You give more compliments. Why? Because as a leader, you are training everyone around you how it's done. How can you wait for somebody to give to you first if you have not trained them to do that? So whether it's at work, at home with your wife, in your men's community, give it. Give it all. Be the first to give. And give with a shine. Give with a speech. Don't give in hiding, because when you give with a shine, people can remember that they too can do the same. Okay, I hope this session helped. This is radical generosity, expanding your nervous system, up-leveling your courage, and standing in faith that if you gave 10 times more than you are giving now, that God would give you 10 times more. God bless on your journey, and I'll see you soon.